What if the reason you're still broke isn't your income? It's that you're thinking like someone who was never meant to be wealthy. Most people spend their entire lives one paycheck away from disaster, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they never develop the mindset that makes money inevitable. Today, we're breaking down the 7 signs that you are actively crossing over into a different financial category. Not lucky, not gifted, dangerous. The kind of dangerous that quietly builds empires while everyone else is distracted. Stay until sign number 4 because that one will completely reframe how you see your daily decisions. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when something shifts inside you. You stop sharing your plans at the dinner table. You stop posting about your goals on social media. You stop seeking validation from people who have never done what you're trying to do. Most people think silence is weakness. That if you're not loudly declaring your ambitions, you must not have any. But the financially dangerous person understands something that behavioral psychology has confirmed over and over again. Talking about your goals gives your brain the same dopamine hit as actually achieving them. In a 2009 study conducted by researcher Peter Galwitzer at New York University, participants who shared their goals with others were significantly less likely to follow through on them, not more. Why? Because the social acknowledgement of the goal tricks your brain into feeling like the work is already done. Think about Jeff Bezos building Amazon in a garage. He wasn't on a stage telling the world he was going to disrupt retail. He was packaging books. Think about the early Warren Buffett, quietly compounding in Omaha, Nebraska, while Wall Street celebrated flashier names. Silence wasn't their weakness. Silence was their strategy. The financially dangerous person has learned something even deeper, though. It's not just about protecting their goals from their own psychology. It's about protecting them from other people's limitations. The moment you share a big financial vision with someone operating from a scarcity mindset, they don't just doubt you, they infect you with their doubt. Stoicism teaches us this principle in the form of the Stoic reserve clause: act with intention, but guard your inner world from external noise. Your plans are weapons. You don't show your weapons before the battle begins. If you've started keeping your financial moves quiet, not out of shame, but out of focus, that is your first sign. You are becoming dangerous. Here's the counterintuitive truth most people never accept. The path to financial power runs directly through being misunderstood. The people around you, your coworkers, your old friends, maybe even your family, they have a version of you in their head, and that version of you has a ceiling. It makes a certain amount of money. It drives a certain kind of car. It takes vacations to certain kinds of places. And when you start breaking out of that mental image they've constructed, when you start investing differently, working differently, thinking differently, people don't celebrate it. They get uncomfortable. Here's what the psychology tells us. In Robert Cialdini's foundational work on influence and consistency, he identified that humans are deeply wired to want the people in their lives to remain consistent with who they've always been. Change threatens the social hierarchy. When you level up, it implicitly challenges the choices of the people around you who didn't. Elon Musk is a perfect modern example of this dynamic, and before anyone rolls their eyes at the name, strip away the controversy and focus purely on the financial psychology. Before Tesla turned a profit, Musk was being mocked, relentlessly. Forbes was writing articles predicting bankruptcy. Investors called it a death trap. Former colleagues said he was delusional. He continued to operate from a framework that the masses couldn't read yet. The financially dangerous person doesn't need your understanding. They don't need the room to get it. They've learned to use misunderstanding as a compass. If everyone around them thinks they're crazy, they're probably moving in the right direction. This is the Stoic concept of preferred indifference applied to reputation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." The dangerous wealth builder has reversed this. Their own judgment, refined by data, by study, by execution, has become the only opinion that truly governs their decisions. If you've stopped shrinking to fit into other people's comfort zones, that is your second sign. Money is renewable, time is not. You've probably heard some version of this quote your whole life, nodded, and went back to watching 3 more hours of content that paid you nothing. But something changes in a person who is genuinely becoming financially dangerous. They start experiencing time differently. Not as something to pass, but as something to convert. Every hour becomes a raw material. Every decision about how to spend time becomes an investment thesis. This isn't about hustle culture. This isn't about working yourself into the ground and calling it discipline. This is something far more calculated, almost eerie to people who don't operate this way. Warren Buffett has said that he spends roughly 80% of his working day reading and thinking. Not in meetings, not on calls, reading and thinking. At first glance, it looks lazy. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But Buffett understood that an hour spent deepening his understanding of a business compounded across decades into billions. He was converting time into insight and insight into wealth. Research from the University of California found that high-net-worth individuals are statistically far more likely to block time aggressively, say no to social obligations that don't serve their priorities, and treat their calendar as a strategic document rather than a reaction to other people's demands. The financially dangerous person has also internalized a concept from dark psychology known as temporal discounting, the human tendency to value immediate rewards over future ones. Most people are slaves to this. They'll trade a future of financial freedom for the immediate comfort of not doing the hard work today. The dangerous wealth builder has essentially hacked this bias. They feel the future as vividly as the present, the compound interest, the passive income, the options, and they mean choices, not just financial instruments. If you've started guarding your time like a billionaire guards their portfolio, systematically, ruthlessly, and without apology, that is your third sign. This one reframes everything, and this is the sign I promised you at the beginning. Most people are wired to seek comfort and confirmation. They surround themselves with people who agree with them, who validate their choices, who tell them they're on the right track. And in doing so, they build a beautiful echo chamber that never challenges them to actually grow. The financially dangerous person has inverted this completely. They study their critics. They analyze their competitors. They deliberately seek out the sharpest opposition to their ideas because they understand that opposition is data. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the most successful hedge funds in history, built his entire investment philosophy around what he called radical transparency and idea meritocracy. He actively encouraged the smartest people in the room to tear apart his thinking. He wanted to be wrong quickly in a controlled environment so he could be right when real money was on the line. Bridgewater grew to manage over $150 billion in assets. That didn't happen in spite of his willingness to be challenged. It happened because of it. This connects to a principle from Stoicism that is deeply underused in financial circles. Amor fati, the love of fate. Not just accepting obstacles, but extracting utility from them. Your competitor just launched something better than your product. Study it obsessively. A business deal fell apart? Treat the postmortem like a PhD dissertation. Someone criticized your financial strategy? Ask yourself honestly if there's even 1% of truth in it before you dismiss it. The dark psychology principle here is equally powerful. It's called strategic paranoia. The best financial minds in the world operate with a controlled form of paranoia. Not anxiety, but vigilance. They assume the market is smarter than them. They assume conditions can change. They never get comfortable. If you've started treating criticism as intelligence and competitors as teachers, you are not just learning, you are sharpening. That is your fourth sign. There is a defining line between the person who earns money and the person who builds wealth. And that line is this. One is trading time for money, and the other is building machines that make money move without them. This is the sign that separates the financially dangerous from the merely financially motivated. It's not about income level. Someone earning $200,000 a year can be completely financially fragile if all of it depends on them showing up somewhere every single day. And someone earning $50,000 can be quietly building something that will outlast them. The 18th century entrepreneur Richard Cantillon, one of the first people to formally write about entrepreneurship, identified this distinction centuries ago. He described the entrepreneur not as someone who works hard, but as someone who buys at certain prices and sells at uncertain ones, bearing the risk of the gap. Systems thinking is the modern evolution of this. It's accepting uncertainty and building infrastructure to profit from it rather than be destroyed by it. Think about the story of how James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, built his newsletter before his book existed. He wasn't waiting for a publisher to tell him he had an audience. He built the system, the email list, the consistent publishing, the trust infrastructure. By the time the book came out, the system already had hundreds of thousands of people inside it. The book didn't create the wealth, the system made the wealth inevitable. Financially dangerous people think in leverage. Not just financial leverage, leverage of all kinds. Automating what can be automated, delegating what can be delegated, creating assets, content, businesses, investments, intellectual property that work while they sleep. The Stoic framework of logos, the rational order underlying the universe, maps directly onto this. The financially dangerous person is not fighting the system of how money flows. They are studying it, aligning with it, and engineering their life to move with the current rather than against it. If you've stopped asking, how do I make more money this month, and started asking, what can I build this year that earns without my constant presence? That is your fifth sign. This is not the cliché advice you've heard 1,000 times. This goes much deeper. Everyone knows delayed gratification is important. Everyone's heard the marshmallow study, the famous Stanford experiment in the 1970s, where children who could wait before eating the marshmallow were shown, in follow-up studies, to have better life outcomes. Career success, financial stability, even health metrics. The ability to wait is correlated with almost every metric of long-term success. But here's what most people miss. Knowing this doesn't automatically give you the ability to do it. The gap between knowing and doing is where most people live their entire lives. The financially dangerous person hasn't just decided to delay gratification intellectually. They've rewired their relationship with desire itself. They've done the internal work, whether through Stoic practice, meditation, financial education, or simply enough painful experience to genuinely feel satisfaction in the process rather than just the outcome. Charlie Munger, who became a billionaire before most people had ever heard his name, lived in the same house in Pasadena for decades. He drove average cars. He flew commercial. Not because he couldn't afford otherwise, but because he had completely decoupled his sense of identity and self-worth from outward displays of wealth. While others were performing financial success, Munger was building it. This connects to what psychologists call hedonic adaptation, the human tendency to return to a relatively stable level of happiness, regardless of major positive or negative events. The financially dangerous person uses this phenomenon deliberately. They don't inflate their lifestyle with every income increase. They allow the new level of income to compound. They experience genuine pleasure from watching the number grow, from watching the system work, from the discipline itself. There's also a dark psychology dimension here. The financially dangerous person understands that consumer culture, the advertising industry, the social media economy, the entire apparatus of modern life, is specifically engineered to destroy your ability to delay gratification. Every ad is a trigger. Every limited time offer is an attack on your future self. Understanding this manipulation doesn't make you paranoid, it makes you immune. If you've started experiencing genuine calm and even joy in the act of restraint, if saving and investing feels less like sacrifice and more like power, that is your sixth sign. This is the final sign, and in many ways it is the one that contains all the others. Short-term thinking is the great equalizer of mediocrity. It is the invisible tax that keeps talented, driven people spinning in place, chasing quick wins, reactive to every market shift, building on sand instead of bedrock. The person who is becoming truly financially dangerous has made a fundamental cognitive shift. They have extended their time horizon. Not to a year, not to 5 years, to decades. Jeff Bezos has talked about this directly. He said one of Amazon's competitive advantages was their willingness to think in 7-year windows when the entire market was thinking in quarterly reports. While competitors were optimizing for the next earnings call, Amazon was building infrastructure, AWS Prime, the logistics network, that looked like losses for years and then became some of the most valuable business assets in human history. Naval Ravikant, entrepreneur and philosopher of the modern wealth mindset, has said that play long-term games with long-term people. It sounds simple. It is almost impossible for most people to ikasi because the world rewards the appearance of short-term results. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius governed an empire that stretched across continents by consistently anchoring his decisions in a long-term framework. In Meditations, written purely for himself, never intended to be published, he returned again and again to the brevity of individual moments and the importance of acting from principle rather than impulse. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Applied to finance, waste no more time debating what a wealthy person does. Build the systems, develop the mindset, ikasi the plan, even when the results are invisible. The financially dangerous person has also made peace with invisibility. When you think in decades, most of your best work is happening underground, like roots. Nobody sees the root system of a massive oak tree. But those roots are what make it impossible to knock down in a storm. If you've caught yourself dismissing short-term noise, market panic, social media drama, the opinions of people who haven't built what you're trying to build, and asking instead what the decade-long version of your decision looks like, that is your seventh and most powerful sign. You are not just changing your finances, you are changing your nature. If this video shifted something in your thinking, even one idea, one reframe, consider this. Every video on this channel is built to do exactly that. To give you the mental tools that the wealthiest, most psychologically advanced people in the world use, without the fluff, without the hype. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Not because we're asking for a number, but because the next video you miss might be the one that changes your trajectory. Every week we go deeper into Stoicism, wealth psychology, and the mental frameworks that separate those who talk about success from those who quietly build it. Subscribe to MindsetMaster. This is where the dangerous thinkers come to sharpen. Here is your challenge before you close this video. Pick one of the 7 signs, just one. The one that felt the most personally relevant, the one that stung a little, the one you recognized yourself in, or the one you want to recognize yourself in. Write it down. Somewhere you will see it tomorrow morning. And ask yourself, what is one decision I can make in the next 24 hours that aligns with this version of myself? Not a plan, not a vision board, one decision, one action, today, because financial transformation doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in the way you think, and thinking, like investing, compounds over time. You've already started. Now don't stop. Wealth mindset, financially dangerous. Stoicism, dark psychology. Sigma mindset, financial freedom. Stoic habits, wealth building. Money mindset, delayed gratification. Financial psychology, build wealth. Stoic wisdom, mindset mastery. Financial independence. Description. Most people stay broke not because of their income, but because of how they think about money. In this video, MindsetMaster breaks down the 7 signs that you're crossing into a different financial category. The kind of mindset that quietly builds empires. From Stoic philosophy to cutting-edge behavioral psychology, we cover the wealth mindset shifts that separate struggling earners from financially dangerous thinkers. Topics include delayed gratification, systems thinking, time leverage, and the dark psychology of how consumer culture keeps you poor. Whether you're into Stoicism, Sigma mindset, financial freedom, or dark psychology, this video gives you actionable insights you can apply today. Subscribe for weekly videos on Stoicism, wealth psychology, and mindset mastery. Keywords: wealth mindset, Stoicism, dark psychology, financial freedom, Sigma mindset, build wealth, financial psychology, Stoic habits, money mindset, mindset mastery.